You get in life a reflection of who you are being. You are thinking, feeling, and acting equal to your current reality. So if you are single but want to be in a relationship, you will think, you will feel, and you will act equal to a version of you that is single but wants to be in a relationship. If you are working a 9-to-5 job you don't like, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are equal to that 9-to-5 job, even if you don't like it. Now, what the quantum law of being is understanding that we have a standing wave. This is something that science has shown. There's something called standing waves. And think of it when it comes to waves and particles. Imagine you have this standing wave of energy that emanates off of your body, and that wherever you go, that standing wave of energy has within it an identity, has within it a belief system. And you can only perceive that which is equal to that standing wave of energy. So if you believe, I'm not worthy and no one's going to hire me, you will go to jobs, you will maybe apply if you even go to jobs, because maybe the belief keeps you from even doing that, but you will be emanating out an energy that says, I'm not worthy, don't choose me. So understand that if you really want to create transformation in your life, you have to begin looking at who are you being. And what we're going to talk about in this video are the things that keep you from making the shift. Things that keep you from changing who you are being. Your identity feeling set, believing your personality is fixed, will keep you in a reality that feels very familiar. You will think, you will feel, you will act in equal alignment to a reality that's out of alignment if being out of alignment feels familiar. So this was one of the first steps of me understanding my own transformation of in 2017, thinking, feeling, and acting equal to a 9-to-5 job I didn't like. And then one moment deciding, talk about this in a sec, authority, deciding I was going to give myself permission to be a YouTuber. I took on the identity of a YouTuber. And it felt weird at first. Felt like imposter syndrome came up. Felt like I wasn't credible. But I gave myself permission. And with 6 months, I was a full-time YouTuber, put in my 2 weeks at a job that I had for 5 years. I sold women's shoes for 8 or 9 years. And then quit when I started to not be a shoe salesperson anymore. I started to be a YouTuber. But one thing that holds us back is the familiar energy we create based on our childhood and who we've decided we already are. So let's look at this for a second. Now, this was inspired because I was watching this video. I don't even remember how it popped up, but there was this guy that weighed like 500 pounds, and then he lost like 200 pounds or 300 pounds. No, he weighed 500 pounds. He lost like he would then weighed like 180 pounds when he used to weigh like 500 pounds. And I was listening to his interview because I thought it's so interesting. He said that growing up, he was called big boned. He was always the bigger guy. People always saw him that way. Therefore, people would respond to him. And even when you think of the science of the expectation effect, the quantum physics of the expectation effect, where if you expect to see something in your reality, it shifts into that based on the person's perceptions. Just like if you get teachers and you give them a whole bunch of students and you say, these students are smart, these and gifted, these students are not so much. At the end of the year, the students that were labeled as smart and gifted perform way better than the kids that don't. And the truth of the matter is, it was not true. It was just random. So it's like the expectation for them to be more brought them out to be more, to be better test takers or whatever it was. Now, in the same way, imagine you see yourself as overweight and you go and meet other people, which infuses a certain reality of I am overweight. There's something like, this is just who I am. I'm big boned. And then you try losing weight. Isn't it hard to lose weight if you believe the weight is who you are? You believe big boned is fixed. And what this guy said was he thought for so much of his life he was big boned. He would eat for comfort. And then eventually what happened is he said he hated going to the gym. He said he hated being sore. It just didn't feel like him. So what he did is he found something he did resonate with, which was some form of cardio. It was like riding bikes, like riding a bike. He started walking, then eventually riding a bike when he was able to at his weight limit. I bet 500 pounds riding a bike would be very challenging. However, he eventually was riding bikes. His identity shifted. And then he started to not identify. He said that he was eating less food. So instead of overeating, he was in a deficit if he was losing fat. But what he said was every time he was in a deficit, he said he knew it was for his health. So he associated the feeling of being hungry with I am healthier. I feel lighter. This is who I am. And within the course of a few years, his whole entire life completely transformed. But what I thought was interesting was his level of identity shifts throughout the process. He went from thinking he was big boned, this is just who he is, he's fixed, to finding what he resonated with, which with him was biking, and it was eating healthy, certain types of foods, not restricting himself in certain ways, but like enjoying it because he associated it differently. So think of it like when we have these different parts of our identity. I am quiet. Tension is bad. I'm the good child, or someone being a nice guy. These are things that will keep you in familiar emotions and familiar energies over and over again. And one of the things you have to become aware of is that you have a very strong desire to stay consistent to your current identity because your current identity keeps you safe from the unknown. Part of the challenge is that in the past, you subconsciously decided, this is who I am, this is my limitation. And maybe it was a parent or a teacher or an authority figure told you you couldn't do it, or you got in trouble for stepping into the unknown, and you decided it's safer for me to be in this little box. There was this weird Stockholm energy, they call it Stockholm syndrome, when you fall in love with your captor, the person that's abusing you. But in my version of that, working that 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, there was something that felt very familiar about having corporate politics that was very unfair. I had a standing wave from childhood that literally said, life's not fair. People try to control me. For a while, it was that women are trying to control me because my ex-stepmom growing up was so controlling that I kept attracting women that tried to control me because literally my association was I must fight for my freedom. So what if the challenge is that people try to change their reality by not looking at their standing waves, which their standing waves is the energy they're emanating off of their body based on who they believe they are. But instead, you must begin to question and self-inquire of who am I being? Who are you being? You're getting an equal reflection of that. And one of the first steps is recognizing it and getting very honest with yourself. Because that's where you take responsibility. We're so used to a story sometimes that outer reality is the problem. Things are happening to me. This isn't fair. Corporate politics is BS. People aren't choosing me. These are all stories that come from looking to an authority figure or looking outside of yourself for validation and approval. Waiting, instead of being. Now, the funny joke of the whole matter, and one of the main parts of this video, is that every moment you are shifting into a new you. The cells in your body are dying and being reborn. But we have a story about who we are. We have a standing wave we continue to impart onto reality because it feels safe. And what we're not aware of is at any moment we could change it if we give ourselves permission. In 2017, for 3 years, I knew I wanted to be on YouTube, but I let all the blocks hold me back. I work a job I don't like, things aren't fair, corporate politics. And then eventually one day I decided I'm going to make a video on every single day, no matter what, until I'm a full-time YouTuber. And just in general, not even until I'm a YouTuber. This is who I am now. And then within 2 or 3 months, my life completely transformed. And within 6 months, I quit that job. So I had to first off wake up and realize, man, I'm working this job I don't like. I had to let that pain drive me out of the familiar. Now I want you to look at the quantum law of being. Who are you being? If you continue to be the way you are currently being, you are thinking, feeling, and acting, you continue to let the standing waves and the limiting beliefs hold you back, what will your life look like in 5 years from now? Really, think about it. What about 10 years from now? What if you always remained in that familiar energy for 15, 20 years? You see, this can be a powerful exercise to do because when I did this in 2017, I realized that if I did nothing, the people I worked with were awesome people, but they were, some of them, there was 1 or 2 people that I worked with in women's shoes that loved their job. And there was about 5 people that hated it, that had to get talked down to and had to put up with it because they wanted their job. And they were all older than me. Some of them were 40s, some of them were 30s. Here I am in my mid-20s. And I'm like, that's my future if I don't do anything. Because they all kind of did the same thing. There's times they had opportunities they didn't take. They stayed there, and then they're working in a job they don't like, dealing with corporate politics. So this is a powerful exercise because you realize it's less tension to stay where you are, but it's more tension over time. Think about that. Tension is not bad, by the way. We believe tension is bad because in childhood, maybe tension was bad. But then it's like, it takes tension to move into a new you. But then what's funny is eventually your identity becomes natural for you. It's just the initial choice that requires some tension. So in 2017, I started making daily videos. I had to learn how to edit. Felt kind of weird. I felt like, what are people going to think of me? But I stayed consistent to it. And then it got easier. After like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, it's kind of easy to make videos every day. And then 6 months later, people are like, Aaron, how do you make daily videos on YouTube? And then I was full-time on YouTube. And I'm like, it's easy. It's a part of my identity. So it's just that initial shift in who you are being. And understand that who you have been has been on autopilot, but you've decided in the past that it is safe for me to play small. It is safe for me to be this way because then I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not walking on people's toes. You did that though. If you blame other people, the power is outside of you. Well, you don't understand my childhood, Aaron. I understand that many of us and many of you have been through way worse things than I have. You guys hear me talk about my childhood and how I overcame it. And you're like, well, mine's much more, much deeper. But the thing is as long as we keep that active, it continues to have power over us. And my intention is to help break you free of it. To understand you don't have to let it hold you back any longer. What if it didn't happen to you? What if it happened for you to create the pressure to become this new you? That's what I believe. I feel grateful for my past because all of that control. One of my major life themes is I like to help people break out of their boxes. Why? Because from 7 to 17 years old, I lived in a box. On the side of the road, off Martin Luther King and 5th in the middle of Vegas. A little box. I'm just kidding. I did grow up in Vegas, but I lived in a box where I was like, I wasn't allowed to do this. I literally had no freedom. I had to sneak to get enough food to eat. But that felt safe. And then here I am at this 9-to-5 job I don't like, and something about it feels kind of safe. But safe was also toxic. Safe was familiar. And then when I started to be my own boss, I started to motivate myself, and then I started to be able to go to, I eventually quit that 9-to-5 job. I had all this freedom. And with that freedom, what if something bad happens? What if I fail? What if, I remember when I was 17 and my dad divorced my ex-stepmom, I remember there was anxiety that came with the freedom. All of a sudden, I'm allowed to have friends. I don't have to earn going to school. I am allowed to watch television. I'm allowed to get enough food to eat. And there's something that felt so anxiety about that. At least when I was back at that house, hiding and always in trouble, I knew where my boundary was. Which is funny because I really didn't, because I had a bipolar, like a borderline personality disorder ex-stepmom who was always changing, mad at this, mad at that. So there wasn't even really a clearly defined box, but it felt safe to have somebody that was making the decisions for me. And then here I'm at a 9-to-5 job where people are deciding certain things for me. Which is funny because I also worked a commission job, or at least I got to control aspects of my paycheck by like the energy I put in was the energy I got out. So there was a certain level of freedom, but nonetheless, there was something that was very familiar. And I had to become aware that I was creating it, and I had to own it and take responsibility for it. And then I had to break out of it by making a new choice about who I am. So when I first learned about this, I read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Old school, one of the old school OG personal development books. And it's all about our inner self-image and how it's a psycho-cybernetic mechanism, which means it's like a thermostat on the wall at 76 degrees or whatever. And if you move up, if the temperature goes up or down, it sets it back to that set point. We all have an energetic identity set point of who we are being. And if you see yourself as limited 9-to-5 job goer, you will fight to keep yourself there. Now, when I learned about this, I realized I saw myself as an average sales employee selling women's shoes. Every day I'd go in, I'd see the list from the people from the days before sales, because we were able to do that at Barney's, is see how much everyone else in our department sold. And every day it'd be posted, and we'd all be able to compare ourselves. Be like, oh, this person was at the top, this person was at the bottom. And I realized I was always right in the middle. Didn't have to worry about losing my job, but also I wasn't at the top. So then I thought to myself, the top selling version of Aaron, how does that version of me think, feel, and act? And what I noticed about myself is that version of me greeted every customer. That version of me did not look at people as, how are you going to help me make my money? I looked at people like, how can I help you? How can I have fun with you? How can I show my personality? How can I elevate their state? I would go above and beyond when I was helping them. I would go the extra mile, as it's called in the book, Think and Grow Rich. And I would, at the end, wrap their shoes, even after they bought, wrap their shoes in a very special way that none of my other coworkers did. And that was just to show me that I'm going above and beyond. And then I would, as I saw myself in that way, within days, I was at the top of the sales list. I started to be the full-time version of me. I wasn't profiling customers. That's one thing a lot of people I worked with did. They'd only help customers they thought were going to buy. I said, I'm going to help everybody. And what's funny is when I wasn't trying to control and I was helping everybody, I attracted the people that wanted to buy. So then, 2017, I'm like, what if I use this same thing I used to become a top salesperson back at Nordstrom's while I worked at Barney's to become a YouTuber? How does the version of me think, feel, and act that's a full-time YouTuber? Oh, that version of me makes videos every day. Doesn't make excuses like, oh, I was working 35 hours a week selling shoes and making videos every day on YouTube. This version of me is committed. This version of me is self-motivated. This version of me writes my own schedule in the sense that I must make time for the things I'm passionate about. This version of me has more willpower. This version of me learned how to edit, so I had to learn how to do that because I didn't know how to do that at the time. Is always learning things, is writing down topic ideas. I started to be that version of me, and once again, within a few months, my whole entire life shifted. Why? Because I gave myself permission to be a new me. Now, every moment you're changing. Every moment you're changing. And you just may be changing back to the old same thing over and over again due to who you are being and how you see yourself and your identity. So you're even changing right now as you watch this video. After this video, if you continue to be who you were being before this video, you're choosing that. It may be the path of least resistance in the sense that it's on autopilot, but you're choosing it. So the key to this entire video of really creating identity level transformation is realizing you're shifting every moment. You're shifting every moment. And if you really want to shift to what you want, you have to acknowledge that you're choosing the reality you're in. Take responsibility for it. And then start to make the decision to step into the unknown. Use your imagination to connect to, how would I think? How would I feel? How would I act in this dream reality? And then begin to be that version of you. And what happens is, as you are not waiting for permission from other people, authority figure, we normally will look to mom and dad to say, hey, go for it. Hey, you can do it. Or they don't want us to do our dreams for a living subconsciously because they want you to they want you to go down the safe route. Then you stay playing small. Who do my parents want me to be? And part of the process of becoming who you're meant to be is what's Carl Jung called individuation. Individuating from mommy and daddy's expectations of you. And a part of that means choosing who you are, not who they want you to be. And your authority figures you may project onto your boss. You may project onto other people in your life. And you must become your own inner authority and choose who you are. Think about the author of your life. Instead of that's the difference between things are happening to you to things are happening for you. You get to become the author of your own life, and you get to shift your life as you begin to understand that it's all been a standing wave. And you can change that standing wave by changing from the inside out. Now, if you want a video to show you how to shift who you are being, I have a video that goes very in detailed in process on a connection to parallel realities with a meditation for helping you shift to the parallel reality you prefer to be in. Knowing you're a new you, you're a new you, you're a new you. This meditation has over 1 million views, many comments from people saying it's completely transformed their life. Allow yourself to shift into a new you by listening to this meditation right here. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a meditation that will shift you to a